Now let me share your screen. Sorry, share my screen. So friends, today we'll be talking about how to Kerberos the Cloudera based cluster. If you want to learn how to set up Hadoop on multi-node environment using Cloudera distribution, we have a course in Udemy. I'll be sharing the Udemy coupon link as part of the description. If you actually watch it, if you watch the pre-recorded session, you can actually see the link in the description and you can click on the link and you should be able to sign up for the $10 course to actually provision the servers from GCP and set up Cloudera on top of it. That being said, now let me actually tell what we are going to do today. So I already have a 7-node setup. You can see here, I have provisioned 7 servers from GCP. And then I have gone through step-by-step process where we added all these servers as part of those 7 nodes using Cloudera distribution. So first we set up Cloudera Manager, then we have added all the services onto it. Now we are at a point where we want to securitize the cluster or Kerberos the cluster or enable security on this cluster. You can actually start here. If you go to administration and if you say security, and you will see the enable Kerberos option here. Don't click and proceed further. I will click and I will explain what it is all about at this time, and we will come back to this at a later point in time. If you click on enable Kerberos here, you see it is showing the checklist. You have to make sure you take care of all these things manually. Then you have to come here, make sure you check these things and then continue. Without taking care of these steps, if you just check these things and if you hit on continue, you might end up in a major issue. It will be a bit challenging for you to course correct. Okay. So if you look at the checklist, the first item is set up a working KDC. Cloudera Manager supports MIT KDC and Active Directory. Active Directory is from Microsoft. MIT KDC is Kerberos. KDC stands for Key Distribution Center. We have already seen core concepts of Kerberos as part of the previous session. So it is continuation to it. So when it comes to setting up of Kerberos, we have to first identify the terms which we typically use. So KRB5 stands for Kerberos 5. You will be seeing KRB5 quite a bit when we get into the configuration. KDC stands for Key Distribution Center. PAM is pluggable authentication modules. It is not required actually, but we will be setting up only for validation, because once we set up Kerberos on one of the servers, which will be part of the enterprise but outside the cluster, and then we want to validate using SH. If you want to validate SH service to actually see whether Kerberos is working or not, then we have to install some PAM related libraries. Otherwise, PAM is not required. Realm stands for a domain over which a Kerberos authentication server has the authority to authenticate a user. So we will create Realm and we'll be using Realm in several areas. So Realm actually tell you the configuration of the Kerberos, where the Kerberos related database is there, where the log files go, so on and so forth. We will get into those details as we proceed further. Now, when it comes to components in KDC, there is an authentication server and there is a ticket granting server. So we have to start two processes. One is KDC and second one is KAdmin. One is primarily for authentication. Second one is primarily to grant the tickets. I think KAdmin is for granting tickets and KDC is primarily for authentication. Also, whenever you try to create tickets, first you need to have a principal for that user or host. Only those users who have principals or those hosts who have principals will be able to generate the tickets and able to use those tickets to authenticate. And all these principals which are created for users and hosts has to be stored in some database. That's where the principals database comes into picture. Okay, so these are the key concepts of Kerberos. And when we actually plan it on a Hadoop cluster, as I have mentioned to you earlier, typically we will not be setting up the Kerberos on these servers, Big Data Server 1 through Big Data Server 7, which are designated for setting up of Hadoop using Cloudera distribution. In our case, Big Data Server 1 is gateway, 2, 3, 4 and masters, 5, 6, 7 are slaves. Outside the big data clusters, there will be one server or two servers, because we can distribute the authentication server and ticket granting server into two different hosts, and we can configure the KDC or Kerberos. Okay, so either we will have one server or two servers depending upon the scale of the organization and also the design which is decided. Typically, most of the production implementations will have the separation of duties between two servers with respect to authentications and ticket granting. So we are not going to have two servers here. We'll be having only one server, and that server can be used to serve Kerberos related authentication across multiple clusters in the organization. It can be big data cluster, it can be non-big data cluster, or it can be a standalone server also. So anything can be a client to KDC. That being said, first what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a virtual machine. There should be a way to create a virtual machine using this as reference. Let me see if I click on this virtual machine, if it show create similar. So you can use this create similar option. Typically, we don't need a same level of server as we have in the big data cluster. The Kerberos server might be smaller server only. We will not be having a very big server. And also, typically, the Hadoop admin will not be setting up the Kerberos. But if you set up and understand the concepts, it will help you in troubleshooting the issues. That's why you should go through the exercise, set up Kerberos by yourself, configure the cluster which you are using or which you are building to learn the Cloudera distribution of Hadoop to actually build the cluster, or Hortonworks distribution of Hadoop to build the cluster, and then configure against the Kerberos server which is built by you itself. It might not be in the, enterprise standard, but at least you will be knowing what is going on, and you will be able to troubleshoot the issue. Okay, so make sure you go through this exercise. That being said, I'm naming it as KDC. Let me review this. I have a 2 vCPU 7.5 GB memory machine. We don't need to add any storage for this except for the boot where the operating system will be there. On all these other servers, we have 60 GB additional storage, so that can be mounted for the HDFS file system. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and say create. No need to add any additional storage here. 32 GB is good enough. It will take a bit of time. Once it is up and running, we should be able to connect to this. However, in this case, I'll be using Big Data Server 1 itself as a gateway to actually access any of the servers in this setup. And hence, what I will be doing is I'll be saying sh-i .sh Google Compute Engine, then Big Data Server -1. So I'm connecting to the gateway node, or the first node in the cluster. As we are, as I am logged in, now I can actually go to the KDC. First, I'm pinging to see if KDC is listening from here. It is listening, and hence I can say sh-i .sh Google Compute Engine, which is the private key for which we have the public key on all the servers. And then I can say KDC and hit enter. Now I am in the KDC. Okay, so this is the one where we'll be setting up Kerberos related components, especially from the master's perspective or KDC perspective. Now, as we have seen yesterday, it is pretty straightforward to set up KDC. You just run this install command as root. So either you can say sudo and paste that yum install command, or you can say sudo su- switch to root and then just run m-y install Kerberos server, Kerberos libraries, Kerberos workstation, and pam_Kerberos 5. So for KDC, we need KRB5 server and KRB5 libs. KRB5 workstation is primarily for the client, and whenever we set up Kerberos on all the masters, we'll be having workstation also. Okay, now it is installing all these binaries. Once these are installed, we have to configure Kdc components. The location for Kdc components is nothing but this one. Everything related to Kerberos will be primarily be here. So let me copy this. It is still downloading and installing the softwares. Now the installation is done. We can paste that path ls-ltr. You can see there is a configuration file and a ACL file. You have to open this configuration file, and here you have to give the realm. It should be specific to your organization. Okay, so my organization is ITversity, and hence I'm saying itversity.com. If your organization is SumX, you can say sumx.com. You can give whatever name you want, and this name has to be used in as we configure the things like KAdmin, ACL, the client configuration, etc. If you look at the properties here, it says where the ACL file is, dict file is admin keytab file, so and so forth. Okay, now I can save it and come out of it, and then we can open this kadmin5.acl file. We just have to replace the realm name here. So whatever realm name we have used as part of the previous configuration file, that has to be updated here. Once again, I'm reiterating, the meaning of this is any principal which is added with admin will have all the permissions to manage the principals or assigning the tickets, etc. Okay, so that is the relevance of this file or the entry in this file. And you can have several rules like this. Instead of opening up everything, you can create groups like admin, several groups, and you can actually control the permissions. Okay, we don't need to, in the pursuit of Cloudera cluster with Kerberos, you can leave it like this. Now save it and come out. The configuration of the Kdc components is done. Okay, now we have to configure Kdc server as a client also. So we have to have a client setup on the same machine where we have configured servers. So we just have to copy paste these things and make sure you review the realms and domain realm. So when it comes to domain realm, in this case, I'm just using this what we say GCP related domain. Typically, we will be having our internal domain. So as mine is itversity.com, if I want to use that as domain, I have to say itversity.com here in all lowercase. This is the realm name. Okay, all capitals. We just named it like this for our understanding purpose. You can name whatever way you want. Okay, so you need to ensure that the default realms, the value in realms, you can have multiple realms like this in a complex. And also the mapping between domain and realm should contain the same value with respect to realm. These are supposed to be same. And when it comes to the KDC, here I have prepared the material with a different set of servers. That's why we have different names here. And if you actually look at the IP addresses or the host names which we are using right now, it is a bit different. It seems there is a question. I will look into that question in a moment. So this is the one which I want to use. So the name of the server is nothing but kdc.c.itversitydiscuss.internal. Even this domain realm has to be fixed. The entries on the domain realm has to be fixed. So let me delete this. Okay, now we have configured the client also. Once the client is configured, then we have to create a database. And here also we are specifying the realm. The realm value has to be same as whatever we have used so far. Meanwhile, we will actually validate this location. If there are any changes happened, we only see two files. One is kdc.conf and the second one is kdm5.acl. And if you review the kdc.conf, there should be an entry for the location of the database. I think there won't be entry if we are using default. If we are customizing it, probably we might have to specify the location of the database also. But let me run that command and show you what is going on internally. Here I'm actually creating a master key for KDC database with the password. So make sure you remember this password. If you forgot this password, then it will be tough for you to operate. So you have to keep that in mind. That being said, now the database is created. You can say ls-ltr, and you can see there is a file by name principal .kadm5 and also principal. So these are the database related files. So whenever you add a principal, you will see that these files are updated. Okay, so we'll come back to this at a later point in time when we actually add principals. Now you can actually start and enable Kerberos. Before going further, you need to ensure that both KDC as well as admin are up and running without any issues. For that, you can actually say systemctl status Kerberos KDC and kadmin after starting these using systemctl. Here, I have started both the services or both the components under the KDC, and also I have enabled as part of the startup. So whenever system is rebooted, automatically these two components also will come up. Now it is time for us to configure SSH to use Kerberos and then take care of authentication. That will actually take care of validation of Kerberos. But before getting in there, let me actually see this question. Okay, it's just a statement from Deepika, so we can move on. Now we can actually validate KDC. So here I'm using ITversity user to log in primarily. So if you actually go here, the username is ITversity, using which I have logged into this machine from Big Data Server 1, right? So I want to create a principal for this user so that ITversity is authenticated to leverage the services that are configured with Kerberos. So here I can say sudo su root, and then I can run kadmin.local. Okay, now you can actually create principals. You can say question mark and hit enter. There are several commands. You can add principals, delete, modify, rename, etc. Right? So we can actually say add prink or add underscore principal. So add prink is a alias for add underscore principal. We can give the name for the principal. I'll be creating two principals, one for root, so that even root can actually leverage Kerberos, and also we'll be adding principal for ITversity. So you can enter the password. So when we add principals, either we can add principals with password or with keys. Okay, if you add with keys, then you can actually take care of passwordless login, but you have to provide the key tab file to the client so that client copy that into their machine, and then they'll be able to authenticate without entering the password. Whenever the client runs kinit command to generate the ticket, it will not prompt for the password if you use the key tab approach. Okay, so here we are using password. If you want, you can also use the key tab approach, where you can actually take care of the authentication with Kerberos without entering for the password while generating the tickets on the client side. You will go through those steps also as we proceed further, because it is required for us to generate principles with KTab for Cloudera, and we will actually go through those details. Here I'm also creating for ITversity, and I'm giving admin permissions to it. And we will be using ITversity later to generate credentials using Cloudera Manager. So make sure you use the user who have the sudo access to take care of this. So enter the password. Now the principals for both root and ITversity users are generated, and both are admins. Now we can actually say add print hyphen rand key host and give the host name. So in this case, we are trying to configure principal for host. So we need to create the principals for both users as well as hosts, so that any user on those particular hosts who have principals can actually access. Only when both user as well as principals, as well as host have the principals, then from that host, using that user, the Kerberos can be leveraged. Okay, that is the key concept here, and the host name is a bit different here. It is kdc.c. ITversity discuss.internal. Okay, now it didn't prompt for the password. It has internally generated some random key, and we have to create key tab files for this host. Okay, so we can actually create key tab file using this kt add command. So I can say kt add, which is key tab add. As part of the last session, I forgot explaining this, because I forgot, but I could not explain this because at that time it was not clear, but it is clear now. Okay, so kt add host kdc.c. ITversity discuss.internal and hit enter. Now you can see that there are key tab files that are generated for different what we say, I think these are all algorithms, encryption algorithms. So for different algorithms, the key tab files are generated. Depending upon the algorithm you are using on the client side, you have to copy that key tab file there. Okay, so that being said, as the key tabs are generated, now we can actually go to the next step, and we can allow Kerberos authentication to the server. I think in this case, there is only one file, and this file is updated with all the key tabs using different algorithms. So if we copy this, as long as the client is using one of these algorithms for encryption, it will work. But if the client is using some other algorithm than whatever is here, then it will not work. So that is the meaning of these many entries with respect to key tab. It is actually creating entries in one file using different encryption algorithms, which can be leveraged by client to communicate with the KDC. Okay, as we are done with creating the principles for both users as well as hosts, now we can come out of this, and then we can allow Kerberos authentication to the server. Here we are trying to use SSH as a service. For that, we have to run this command. Okay, and then we have to configure SSH as a client to Kerberos. For that, we have to go to etc ssh underscore config. Go here and then paste this. Come out of it after saving, and then you have to reload SSHD. Once you reload, now you can actually validate the KDC setup using this server itself as client. For that, you can actually exit from here, go to the ITversity user. If you try to log in as ITversity user again onto the same server by saying SSH KDC, so if you are trying to connect with the same user using SSH, you don't need to specify the username. Specifying username is optional. So here we are trying to connect as ITversity itself again onto the same server. For that reason, either we can say SSH KDC, or we can actually say ITversity at KDC. Both mean same. Okay, now hit enter. Yes, it is complaining that permission denied. So the reason is we have configured the client, but we haven't created the ticket. So one of the key component with respect to Kerberos is nothing but ticket granting server. You need to get the ticket so that you are allowed to use the service. So here as ITversity user for which we have the principal already in Kerberos, we can actually say K init because it is configured with I will troubleshoot this issue in a moment. Because it is configured with password, it should prompt for the password, but it didn't prompt for the password because there is some bug. Okay, now let me say host name -f and hit enter. So this is the host. Now let me actually say sudo su and then kadmin.local and hit enter. List brings. Let's validate here. Okay, so here we have itversity/admin. We don't have for itversity. So the way it can be done is probably I have to say k init itversity/admin. I hope this might work. No. So okay, there is a typo here. Sorry for that. Yeah, because we have tagged as admin while creating the principal. That's why we have to specify that here. Now I can say itversity. Or I can enter the password, and then I can say klist to list the principals. Sorry, not the principals, to list the tickets, and you can see the ticket is valid for 24 hours. Now I should be able to say sh kdc and hit enter. Okay, it is still saying permission denied because we do not have the principal for itversity. We have principal for itversity/admin. So for that purpose, what we are supposed to do is we have to sudo su to root once again, and then say kadmin.local list brings. Now you can say add brink, and then itversity provide the password. We need to have that admin also because without admin you will not be able to generate the keys at a later point in time. So keep this as is without modifying, and now you can actually come out of this, exit from root, and then you can actually say k list. There is okay, there are two. I don't know why it has created two. Anyway, what I'll be doing is I will be saying k destroy. It will destroy all the tickets. Now if I say k list, it will not show anything. Now you can say k init, enter the password for itversity at itversity.com, and now you can actually say sh kdc and hit enter. Now it has logged in without any challenges. So the setup is successful. So the Kerberos is set up on one of the server in the enterprise. Now we want to configure our Cloudera cluster to use that KDC. Okay. But to actually set up Kerberos to enable Kerberos, which is KDC on our big data nodes, we have to prepare them. So the next step is to prepare our nodes in the Cloudera cluster. So it will be better if you have Ansible so that you can actually take care of installing everything simultaneously on all these servers, connecting to one server at a time. Yeah, if you are new to this content, we already demonstrated how to set up Ansible, how to take care of these things as part of the main course. As I have explained to you earlier, those who are joining from the YouTube, you can actually sign up to our Udemy course for $10, which will be available as part of the description. Okay. That being said, first I have to go to the directory where I have created the host file and everything for my Ansible, so that I can run the Ansible commands to take care of a particular action on all the hosts. So there is a folder called as setup cluster, and you can see there is a hosts file. And if you look at the hosts, I have from Big Data Server 1 through Big Data Server 7. Now, if I run this command, it will take care of installing all the binaries that are required for a client. So it will run simultaneously, and you will get the feedback very soon. What happened? Why it is taking so much of time? Yeah, now it is working fine. It is installing. Okay, there seems to be some issue. Big Data Server 4, it failed. Interesting. It have failed only on one server. I need to check why it has failed. Let me try running it once again. Yeah, it is failing for some reason. So let me connect to that Big Data Server 4. Now let me run this command. Okay, there's a typo here. I don't know why it is conflicting. So let me fix this. I'm not sure why it is only failing on this. Let me see if there are any questions on YouTube meanwhile. Okay, there are no questions. There seems to be some issue with yum repository on this. Let me do one thing. Let me say yum clean all. Okay, so first of all, let me do sudo and then yum clean all. Let me try running it once again. No, it is still not working. Let me see. Actually, all the servers are in the same state. I don't know why it is working on all the other servers, but not this one. Okay, m-y remove. Let me remove these packages, libkadm, libkadm, 5-star. Oh my God, it has erased quite a bit of stuff. Let us see. Now let me run this once again. Let me remove Kerberos file lips also. I never ran this. I don't know how come it came into this. I hope it will not screw up the server. Oh my God, it is removing so many things. Oh my God, I think I messed it up. Let me see if everything is healthy. Let me go back here. So far, I don't think there is an issue, but why it is trying to remove those many? It is even trying to remove yum. Okay, let me do this. Cat etc sc linux. Let me do this. Let me say update. This is a complete surprise to me, so I never ran into this issue. I have done quite a bit of installations, but I never ran into this issue. So let me do this. Now you got the issue. So it got messed up. So let me see what is the issue now. Uh, Almost everything is down. I think we might have to stop this session for today. I'm sorry for that. It's a complete surprise. Um, so if it doesn't come up, then we have to discontinue. If it comes up, then we can actually proceed. Yeah, on 4 it is not coming up. So it got messed up. Shoot. I don't know how come it got messed up. Why we got this issue. Anyway, I think we have to stop for now. So we'll actually catch up tomorrow if the issue is addressed. Otherwise, Friday I'm not available. Is tomorrow Thursday? Yeah, tomorrow is Thursday. So we'll continue next week. By next week, we will make sure that everything is working fine. Okay. Meanwhile, what I will do is I will share the document. You guys can give a try and see if you are able to take care, because most of the stuff is based on the core aspects of Kerberos only. Let me walk you through the documentation and I will give it to you. So try it out. So what you are supposed to do is, using Ansible, you have to install wget and unzip. Then you have to install something called as unlimited JCE. Okay, on all nodes where we want to enable Kerberos from big data, on all nodes in big data where we have to enable Kerberos, we have to install this unlimited JCE policy. There is no yum repository for it. You have to download first from Oracle, then you have to unzip, then you have to copy that file into a particular location. There are two files that will be there once you unzip. One is local policy and second one is US export policy. You have to copy these files into this location, and you can use this Ansible command to take care of it. Then you can actually copy the etc kerb5.conf from KDC. So you have already on the KDC. First, what you do, either you copy that to Big Data Server 1, or you actually just open this etc kerb5.conf and paste the same contents. Okay, whatever we have used earlier when we actually configure the KDC server itself as client, use the same contents and copy it to etc kerb5.conf on Big Data Server 1, where we have set up Ansible, and then you have to copy that file onto all the hosts, because each and every host is a client now for our KDC, and hence we have to configure client on all the hosts, and this will take care of it for you. Then you have to create principles. So here you have to go to KDC. As part of the KDC server, you have to create a principle for Cloudera SCM. The reason why we have to add principle for Cloudera SCM is because Cloudera SCM is the one who actually start all the services. So here we are trying to enable Kerberos to manage the services in Hadoop. As Cloudera SCM will actually start all the services, we have to make sure that Cloudera SCM is authenticated through Kerberos to take care of it. So first you have to create a key for Cloudera SCM. Here we are using passwordless key, because it doesn't make sense to enter password whenever you try to start all the services on the server, because we will be doing it quite often, and it should be passwordless. Then you can actually generate the key tab file, and you have to copy that key tab file on the Big Data Server 1 where the Cloudera Manager is running. These steps has to be taken care on the server where Cloudera Manager is running. So in our case, Big Data Server 1 is the one where the Cloudera Manager is running. So you have to copy this cmf.key tab, which is generated in KDC onto etc Cloudera SCM server on Big Data Server 1. Then you have to change the permissions also. Once you change the permissions, then you are done with the preparing the nodes in the big data cluster for Kerberos. Then you can actually go to that enable Kerberos, check all the points in the checklist, click on continue. Then you have to take care of generating the keys and restart all the services on the cluster. So make sure you follow and come to this point by tomorrow if possible. If not, we will see. Okay, try it out. In the worst case, you will mess up your cluster as you are in the learning mode. If you have enough credits, if you mess up, you just rebuild the cluster. This time when you try to rebuild the cluster, instead of adding one service at a time, I have created a video yesterday where we can actually add all the services in one shot. So make sure you follow that. I will share the link with you, whoever is joining this session live for our premium customers. And you can actually follow that and set up cluster in one shot if you screw up and if you could not figure out where the issue is. But most likely you will not screw up if you follow these instructions. For some reason, I don't know why, I generally use Ansible to actually manage all my components. Why it failed on Big Data Server 4, I don't know. Probably I might have given to our team and they might have changed a few things, or I might have messed up unknowingly. But this is the first time I am starting the servers for Kerberos. I never opened up the servers for Kerberos. I don't know why it messed up. It's very unfortunate that we have to stop in the middle, but we'll take care. Okay. Any questions from the team?
No, Durga. We'll try and.
Yeah. So Kerberos, you have to be very careful. You have to follow the steps very methodically. The reason is if something screw up, troubleshooting is a bit challenge. Okay, because when it comes to KDC, the locks will be only the KDC related stuff. If something messed up in between with respect to the typos in the properties file and all, you will not be able to troubleshoot that issue very easily. So make sure you use the appropriate values under realms and default realm, especially on this client file. So this is the configuration file for all the clients. You need to make sure that the realms and domain realm details are accurate. If you fail to do so, then you will run into issues for sure. And if you don't focus on this and if you troubleshoot, you will not get anywhere. So make sure you do follow the steps very carefully and take it and try to implement, validate at each and every step to make sure that things are progressing without much challenges. Okay, we will catch up tomorrow. Bye.